Welcome to your intelligence briefing. In early February, Foreign Affairs published an article titled Xi the Destroyer. The piece argued that the latest military purge signals a new phase in Xi Jinping's control over China's armed forces. Its focus was not a single individual, but the dismantling of an entire leadership structure. Jonathan A. Zinn and John Culver, writing in Foreign Affairs, frame Xi Jinping not as a reformer of the People's Liberation Army, but as a leader willing to dismantle it in order to remake it. Their central argument is that Xi Jinping no longer believes the existing military leadership can be trusted politically or operationally. They describe the removal of General Zhang as the culmination of a decade-long process. Zhang was not an outsider or a rival. He was one of Xi's closest military associates, retained beyond the informal retirement age and elevated even after earlier purges. According to Chin and Culver, removing such a figure is not primarily about corruption. It reflects a governing logic in which confidence is scarce, loyalty is provisional, and personal history offers no lasting protection. The authors emphasize that Xi has effectively judged an entire generation of senior officers as inadequate. In his assessment, they failed to meet two requirements simultaneously: absolute political reliability and credible warfighting capability. This framing leads to a deeper question. If the existing system cannot be trusted, is it being reformed or intentionally dismantled to clear space for something fundamentally different? So here's how we're going to approach this. First, we stay with Foreign Affairs' interpretation of destruction as a governing method. Then, we'll examine how this dismantling appears in real-time command conditions, as described by the Wall Street Journal. This briefing does not assume intent, timelines, or operational outcomes. It does not argue that dismantling necessarily leads to weakness or strength. The focus is institutional, how military systems behave when leadership structures are removed faster than they are replaced. Analysis of senior military purges intersects with questions of readiness, escalation management, and deterrence. Public reporting is incomplete, and official explanations are shaped by political incentives. Accordingly, observations here are treated as indicators of institutional stress, not predictors of conflict. Where Foreign Affairs provides strategic interpretation, the Wall Street Journal offers a snapshot of what remains. The journal reports that Xi Jinping now stands effectively alone at the top of China's military system. Following the removal of Zhang, no other uniformed leader retains comparable authority within the Central Military Commission. According to WSJ reporting, traditional buffers, senior vice chairman, peer authority, internal counterweights have largely disappeared. Decision-making authority has become compressed, flowing downward from Xi with limited mediation. The journal does not frame this as collapse. It frames it as concentration, a system optimized for unity by narrowing the number of authoritative voices. Used here, the WSJ functions as an operational lens. It shows what Foreign Affairs' concept of destruction looks like in practice: a command system reduced to its load-bearing core. Placed together, these perspectives reveal a set of deeper institutional dynamics that merit closer examination. First, control versus redundancy. Modern military organizations are designed with overlapping authority for a reason. Redundancy allows disagreement, challenge, and correction without threatening the system's integrity. When redundancy is removed, decisions may become faster but also more brittle. Second, loyalty enforcement versus information quality. Highly centralized systems tend to reward alignment over candor. Officers learn quickly which assessments are safe to voice and which introduce personal risk. Over time, this alters the quality of information reaching the top, not through deception, but through self-censorship. Third, institutional memory loss. Purging an entire leadership cohort removes more than individuals. It disrupts informal networks that transmit experience, precedent, and caution especially in crisis situations where written doctrine is insufficient. Fourth, error tolerance. Systems built around a single authoritative voice often exhibit low tolerance for visible failure. This can incentivize concealment of minor problems, which then compound into larger ones before corrective action becomes unavoidable. Fifth, adaptation under uncertainty. Centralized systems adapt best when the environment is stable and predictable. They adapt poorly when faced with ambiguous or rapidly evolving conditions that require decentralized judgment. None of these dynamics imply incompetence or inevitability. They describe trade-offs choices made to optimize control at the expense of flexibility. In this light, Foreign Affairs' description of Xi as a destroyer is not moral commentary. It is an institutional diagnosis. Destruction as a prerequisite for rebuilding with no guarantee that reconstruction will keep pace. An additional signal comes from how the Chinese military's official newspaper responded after the announcement. Following the removal of Zhang, PLA Daily published a series of commentaries over several consecutive days. Rather than expanding on factual details, these pieces repeatedly emphasized the need for the entire military to resolutely support the Party Central Committee's decision and to maintain a high degree of consistency with the chairman. Notably, as the commentaries continued, the language shifted. Direct references to specific allegations receded, while abstract political formulations became more prominent. The emphasis moved from explaining what had happened to reaffirming where loyalty should be placed. In systems where institutional consensus is solid, official messaging often highlights implementation, learning, or regional alignment. Here, the repeated call for unified political stance serves a different function. It signals that alignment is being reinforced, not assumed. This does not establish dissent, nor does it imply resistance, but it does suggest that cohesion is being actively produced through narrative rather than passively reflected by it. From an analytical perspective, the messaging itself becomes part of the system's workload, compensating for uncertainty inside the structure it is meant to stabilize. At this point, we've laid out the reporting and the assessments. Individually, none of these observations is decisive. But together, they outline a fundamental trade-off between political control and institutional resilience. Going forward, the most meaningful indicators will be structural rather than rhetorical. Who is appointed to refill the Central Military Commission? Whether authority is restored through experienced military professionals or reinforced through civilian oversight, and whether command authority remains visibly centralized or begins to diffuse once again. These signals won't tell us what decisions will be made. They will tell us how much uncertainty the system believes it can tolerate after having dismantled so much of what came before. This has been your intelligence briefing. If you support this format, I'll keep pushing toward a more frequent cadence, while keeping the background and context deep enough to be worth your time. And for those who've asked, there's now a small member space, with occasional analytical notes and early briefing access when relevant. The public briefings stay exactly as they are. There are more in-depth analyses on this situation across the channel. You're welcome to click through to watch or listen to those briefings. I'm Eric Chen. See you around.